Live here. Just give me a second. So make sure it works. Looks good. All right. So I'm recording this just in case. Actually, I might make this one public. I'm not sure yet, but I figured I was here. Might as well do one. I guess I need to share my screen. You see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Not really much to say on ES. So, like, I'm gonna go through a few things. Try to do a little bit of a different stream today, just because there's really not much happening with Bitcoin. Still stuck in the same 120 plus day long range. We're even in a tighter consolidation at the moment. I mean, had a pretty good trade opportunity actually when I was asleep, but missed that. And for ES, I don't really, again, like, we're just building a base. Been in here for a month now. So this is ES for the last month. Really just range bound. If anything, again, trying to build up some kind of a base here. I think if we were to break above, I really want to see a push probably above like 39.20. Then you get into like, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that we're probably continuation of trend. If anything, get a bit of a push up coming out of this base, but I think it's probably to put in another lower high. And again, for me, I still think that we're heading lower overall. I don't think that the bottom is necessarily in. So if anything, another bear market rally could push up to even like 4,000, something like that. Wouldn't surprise me too much, and go from there. But either way, I think that this would obviously have a pretty nice effect on Bitcoin. Maybe help push it out of its slump. Can at least start taking this out and hold 38.20, and then I'd be looking up to this set of highs next. But again, not really much to say about that. As far as Bitcoin goes, it's like really low time frame stuff. Basically just share the setup that I was looking for and got and didn't take because I went to sleep, stayed up to 3 a.m., ended up triggering at 5. But it's basically just there was actually a pretty fair amount of confluence. I think maybe hourly might be a little bit easier to see this one. Pretty nice confluence actually though. Golden pocket of the 18K to 20K move. Came right back into here. It was also your 1-to-1. So I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Oh. It was this right here. I'll just redo it that way you can see. But it was basically if you take your high, come down to this low. See levels, you come back up to this high, all right? So you have your 3 points. Your 1-to-1, it's kind of hard to see. It's right here. It's kind of like make it hard to see. Right there, 18,721. Anyway, puts you right into the golden pocket. Came down, hit your 6.6 basically. Again, pretty nice confluence there. And back into this little zone as well. Previous to the big run to the upside. Price spent some time over here. So I expected a little bit of support coming into this region. Nice. Again, a little bummed. This trade opportunity. But at the end of the day, got a nice reaction off of it. And kind of just right back into the same, it's just basically right back to the same boring area that Bitcoin's been in for quite some time. So like if I was in this trade, I probably would at least take some off here. Although to be fair, like I definitely like for me, I wouldn't be looking for any longs here. That's just myself. Bit of a pullback, maybe another potential entry. And for me, like invalidation would be below this low. Typically, I don't like to put it in the most obvious area. But this low, basically what happened as price came into, come into this area, I definitely wouldn't want, like there's really not much of a reason for it to come back is kind of what I would say. So like this is one of those instances for myself where any long positions, if I was to, again, to look for some kind of a retracement, if there was maybe, some divergences on low time, some other reason for me to want to take another scalp position, my invalidation would very likely be under this 18.6, because I think if this is taken out, then you're looking for a bit of a deeper retracement at, at minimum down to 18,400 area, back in this little mini area of consolidation, and likely it gets a lot scarier after that. So for me, that's kind of like how I would phrase this. Again, that's the trade opportunity that I was looking for. I didn't take it because it happened at 5 a.m. Kind of see on my time here, and that's okay. So if this low holds and gets some nice bullish market structure forming up here, I do think this actually could push quite a bit higher. Probably be looking back to around these highs, to be honest. I mean, first kind of like obvious area where I would be very careful is around this 19.6 region. But ultimately, I would be looking for another run of 20K and then kind of go from there. And kind of like the last thing I'm going to say about Bitcoin is, it's actually not on this template, of course. But for me, the key level, it hasn't changed in weeks. Like the most important level for me as far as Bitcoin goes to the upside is 20,500 for it to break. If it breaks that, I think it can go significantly higher. But for now, 20,500 kind of remains like the line in the sand for myself. Until then, like we're just stuck in a very, very boring range. And, you know, I think again, for anybody, like this was a very good opportunity that was given. And, you know, like when you kind of get these setups and you're patient enough for them, I think they're still worthwhile to take it. As far as playing kind of like these micro ranges that form over the course of like several days, like if you look back at, you know, stuff like this, I mean, again, like you have to understand too, this is 500, like this is literally $500, right? So like this section, I mean, think about that. Like that's very, 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 like that's not much happening. And this is a substantial amount of time put in. That's again, like this is very sideways range, but if you don't mind playing ultra low time frames and, you know, playing basically like playing these oscillations that you get, that's great. For me, you know, lately haven't been playing those as much. I prefer like this. Again, this was a very nice opportunity. But you can kind of see like it takes quite a bit of time to develop. So this is kind of how it is. But I think if you're patient enough, there's still some really good trades to be had. So that's really probably it. You know, that's it as far as Bitcoin goes. We can take a quick look at this. So this is ENS. This is actually a short that I am in, which I've been talking about for a few days now. And simply put, like there was a lot of really good reasons. You had your golden pocket, you had your macro value area high, and you had an untapped monthly, all coming within this area here. Very, very, very nice resistance that we typically like to see. Getting your pullback, kind of like into this trend line that I have here. You go on like a little bit lower time frame. So it's kind of respecting that. Okay, not too bad. This is just kind of like an area of interest that I wanted to be aware of. And then your anchored VWAP kind of coming in from this low here. Just kind of curious to see like where the volume is coming in, which if you look, it's been very good support. All right, so since the low, anchored VWAP, look at all the support, and came very close. Didn't quite tap it, but got close enough. And again, like it's found a little bit of a floor at the moment. Again, this is a short that I actually got in at 1990. I ended up taking profit. I think it was like 1890 or something like that, and then got back in another fill at $20, and I've been short ever since. I haven't taken any off. This, if you zoom out, I should go on like a daily or something. It's kind of like make it a little bit easier. I mean, this is just one of those where if it starts to lose support, especially coming off of a major level, like to me, this is one of those massive levels that I like to, typically like when I get these types of trades at these levels, I tend to try to be a lot more patient and not worry, like concern myself so much with what's happening on the lower time frame. And again, like if you zoom in, you see how much time was spent in this region around my entry and even slightly above my entry. It went through a couple of times. But for me, it's just about being patient and kind of letting price develop, right? If it's going to take me out, it really would have needed to get above this region. And if it started to hold that, I probably would have cut my position, because at that point, there's really risk up to some higher levels, which like you have an untapped weekly here at $24, $28. Like you get the point. Like there's pretty good reason at that. You know, if it was to actually flip this into support and hold, then I would be looking for higher levels. I wouldn't want to be in my short. But these are the kind of levels that I wait for. And when I get into these trades, I try to be very patient because I'm expecting at least a pretty good retracement out of that, which technically this has been a pretty good retracement. Like you can throw on Ichimoku, it kind of gets a little bit confusing because there's like too much shit on the chart right now. But again, kind of like coming into your Tenkin and currently like battling it, right? I'm looking for at least a move like a little bit lower here into like your 1550, 1580 region. And kind of like would look to reassess there. Obviously, if we start holding this and I see a reason to at least like take some profit and move my stop up, I'll do it for the timing. I haven't seen it. Just being patient. But obviously below here, want to be aware of this level. Macro point of control, big level, coming into like your golden pocket of this local retracement, right? So this low up to this high, I'd be careful around there. So this is kind of like the region that I'm looking at for a potential take profit. One, I haven't put it in yet because, to be honest with you, like part of me being patient with this. Now I would say this is not the same level. This is certainly not the same trade that I've taken, like how I took the wave short and just shorted it all the way down. But I think that this one has really good potential, especially if we start breaking supports here, right? So again, you kind of see we're at what I would say is like a lower time frame support. If we start to break this $15 region and hold below that, I think that there's honestly a very good chance that we come all the way back down to these lows here. So I would say that if you're not short already, you missed the trade, too late to get in. I would certainly at least I think the risk here makes sense as far as, again, like where I would be wrong on this idea. Again, it's still above here for me. Like if it starts to push and reclaim and hold above this, obviously I'd be worried about like a potential deviation, maybe give you another short. But the invalidation still really remains the same as far as this trade setup goes. If you get some kind of a retracement, back up, find some nice confluence around there, reason to get in, and you're comfortable with the risk, I think it's not a terrible place to look. But at the end of the day too, like, did it even come and take this low? I still think that we do. That's my guess. But it's still technically now this doesn't look so good in my opinion. If you just zoom into this part of the chart, it doesn't look very good. But if you're going to come in and find support somewhere, it's going to be in this region and go from there. If this starts to, again, start to lose this region, be looking down, basically 1480 to 1550, something like that. If this is lost, I think I'm in like, I already think I'm in a pretty, I'm obviously already in a pretty good short. But if this support is lost, I'm in an incredible short. And again, there's really at this point for myself, no real reason to close it. I'll probably start trailing stops and whatnot, but that's kind of like what I'm looking for this trade. If it doesn't happen and it starts to come up, again, I might actually look to compound this. I'm not entirely sure yet, to be honest, but at the moment, sitting in a really nice short. And if I see some other reason to take me out of the trade or whatever, maybe I'll exit. Don't know yet, but haven't really seen it. So that's ENS. That's like, as far as alts go, that's the only trade that I'm in for an alt. It's a short ENS. ADA, this is one that I missed, and I talked about this on the last live session. Basically turning this key level, literally support, like the classic SR flip, massive level here, and you got a really big move to the downside. Like that was a very easy trade. Didn't get that one. But I think that like if price pushes up a bit higher, maybe gives me another shot. I doubt. I don't know if it goes all the way back up here. I'd probably look for like honestly a reclaim and then a loss of this level again to probably take that. That's like kind of what I mean is something like this. Like if price managed to like make its way up and then lose it again, for me, short invalidation and be targeting substantially lower. Again, this is one that it gave you like the easiest setup in the world. And if you didn't take it, like myself, then for me, the only choice right now is to be patient. Now, the target for this, though, like where I'd be looking is way down here. So to give you an idea of this, it's literally from here, you're talking 40%, right? So even from where we're at now, that's still a pretty decent move to the downside. And you would say, well, the risk reward looks pretty good. And I'd say you're right. The risk reward does look pretty good. But still, at this point for me, I certainly feel like I'm chasing it. If I was to take a short here and just be looking for that, I would prefer to get something a little bit closer to my original idea. And again, like I think that would be a really nice short on Cardano if you actually took this level back out and then lost again, got like a bit of a deviation above, something like that, run this high, something, you know, something of that nature. That would definitely, like, I would try not to miss that myself. And that's kind of what I'll be looking for. But again, just to kind of give you an idea, like this level goes back. This is a very old level. Goes all the way back to the beginning of this chart, pretty much. I think when they started like the USDT pair on Binance. The high here before all-time high, right? So you can see like this is a very, very well-respected level, and then price comes down pretty close to it. And then on this, you know, even, I mean, you can see it very clearly on the daily here. You lose it. It even gives you the back test as resistance. And then this is, I mean, just off of this was a 15% move to the downside with no leverage. Like that's just straight 15%. Like that's a phenomenal trade. Again, very good trade on its own. But had you taken it, that is. So I would say like on altcoins, there's definitely trades to be had. I think you have to kind of go looking for them though. There's some other really good setups I think that I talked about in again the last live stream that I'm not going to re-go over because it's just, again, not it's a waste of time, but it's like I already went over it. You can just watch the last video. But I think you just kind of have to go hunting for them and be very patient. And I think that's kind of the name of the game right now when it comes to crypto, because things are relatively slow, is that patience and only taking the best setups is kind of the name of the game for me. So I don't have too much else to say about crypto at the moment. Like I did go through some charts. I put them in, I think what was it? Algo. Algo was one that's just in like, it's in a very nice range, right? Got your deviation above the range. Again, your nice range, got your deviation, acceptance back below, basically took it almost all the way down to the bottom of the range low. For me, I'm not interested in this unless it comes down to this 27-cent level. So this key level down here. So you can kind of see, again, even like the midpoint of this channel resistance in like as the top of your deviation, like this is just like, this is awesome. This is like really good stuff to see. And then again, come back into around the EQ or the 50% mark of your range, push, loss, rejection. Like this really is not terrible, to be honest. This is like very, very nice, clean range. For me, again, if you were like reclaiming this EQ at basically 33 cents, you could look for a potential long there. I'm not interested in it to myself. What I would prefer is, again, come down to challenge this low, like these lows. I would want to come in, potential SFP reclaim, something like that, be looking to take it back up. That's kind of what I'd be interested in. But again, patience. Like people are trading right here, getting killed. I shouldn't say everybody, but probably a lot of people are getting, or somebody's trading this, right? And again, the range, very well defined. For me, I think patience, again, like continues. Sometimes it's hard because it takes time, quite a bit of time to develop, but that's kind of like the name of the game for me. Again, is like just trying to take the best setups that I can, give myself the best chance to come out ahead. So again, that's probably it for crypto. I'm going to switch over a little bit to equities and talk about like some individual stocks that I'm actually very interested in. Position that I took it last week was actually Norwegian. And this is one that just absolutely sniped the bottom. Very, very good entry. And it's really simple. So like coming down into your value area low. So your macro value area low of the entire chart, right? It's obviously an area of value. And is also the 886. So came down, showed again 886 of this, you know, basically since your COVID crash up to your high. And it's kind of the same thing on a much higher time frame than what we saw at ES in the beginning, right? Where you're kind of building a base here. So you see how much, again, like this is a very well-respected level. We came back into it again, took the long. Where am I wrong on this? Well, I'm going to tell you this, full transparency. This is one that I'm willing to hold. So this is a little bit different. So this for me is not really, it's not a trade that I'm trying to get in and out of within any amount of time. Like this is one that I am really positioning myself. Like this is one of the first few positions that I've actually bought. Again, like my macro thesis still remains the same, that I think we see lower levels, right? So as long as that's the case, and as long as, and so far I've been right about that, you know, but I do think that we are certainly at some point with individual stocks where the value just seems to be there. And like, again, for me, Norwegian seems to be one of them. Again, coming into like basically your COVID lows, very close to that. And obviously there's, again, some technical levels here that of interest, like very simple stuff, but this is weekly support, right? Like this is a very nice support region. Came back into it again, took the shot, and I think I'm up like 27% off the low. So this is one that, you know, again, as a trader, you would say, hey, you're up 27%, take your win. You're coming back up to, again, like the point of control, relatively important area. Probably going to find some resistance around here, just like you did last time. And it's probably going to exactly be the case. But from a long-term perspective, I think that this is a chart that has like that over time. I think buying at these levels, again, this is not financial advice. This is just telling, just my opinion and sharing kind of like what I'm doing. I think that buying at these levels with a long enough lens, right, is not going to be a terrible idea. That's my guess. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is, right? Anything lower than this, especially running these COVID lows, something like that. Again, this is still, for me, it's an opportunity. But you know, if we come up to this region here, see some weakness, see some reasons to want to sell because I think I can position myself back here, then I'll do it. I probably will do it, but I'm not committed to that idea yet, to be honest. But anyway, I feel like that's a very good entry. The point is, like, if you look at this, okay, and Bitcoin's been in a range for what, 4 months now? So 120 days, something like that. I don't know. I stopped pulling it because it was getting really old, just pulling it all the time. But it's been in a range for a considerable amount of time. And the thing is, like, in other, like, obviously in traditional markets, there's quite a bit of volatility, even outpacing crypto, which is crazy. Like if you're just, you know, looking at it in comparison to Bitcoin. But there's just a lot of really good opportunities that I think are much easier. They're honestly like much easier market at the moment. So kind of why I'm spending some time on it. But anyway, this is one that I would like to see break this high here, right? So it's kind of like put in a slightly higher low. Would love to take out like $16 and hold. You know, ultimately, I do think that like another rotation up to, you know, kind of like where yearly pivot is 24, 25, 26, something like that. That would probably be like a really good, you know, if I get that, that's probably, if I get that this year or, you know, sometime relatively within the next few months, I would say I would probably exit that myself. That'd probably be good enough. So, yeah, so that's that. Figured like I would talk about Norwegian because, again, I think that was actually a pretty good one and give you kind of the reason behind it. So I posted this in Discord earlier. This is T. So this is the AT&T. And I actually did same reasons. Actually picked some up today. I missed this entry though. I'm very sad because I didn't have an alert. But you can see like this is one that level that I found on my chart. It's basically this range, right? So you kind of have like this. You have this very nice, pretty well respected channel. But it's like the slope of it's obviously very, it's not very steep at all, right? So like you could easily horizontal this instead of use a channel. But this is like an old channel that I put on here a long time ago. But the end of the day, like we just have a range. It's like a 20-year range. This is literally a 20-year range on AT&T. You can see where where my cursor is. It's in 2002. It's literally a 20-year range. And we are we came back down to range low just last week, and look where you found support. Look at the response into range low, into your S1 yearly pivot. Phenomenal. Like, this is honestly a very big missed opportunity. But I bought a very small position today, and I'm kind of hoping that I get, again, another shot to buy down here. You have to understand, this is a 20-year range, and you just got the opportunity to buy range low on a very, again, like, this is AT&T, very big company. Don't have any like long-term concerns over it. This is just a huge opportunity, and obviously a nice reaction off of it. I would expect to see some kind of pullback at some point. I'm not sure if it comes all the way. I mean, again, this is kind of like tough, right? Because like this chart to me is, I would treat this a bit like, this to me is a bit different. You know, if I'm looking at things from an individual perspective, I'm not trying to think about what the hell else is going on in the rest of the world. Like, if I think in those terms, we're probably going to come back and have another opportunity to buy this range low. But for just looking at this chart on its own, that was a hell of an opportunity. So kind of the lesson there is, as you're doing your analysis and you're coming, again, like if you see entries that you just don't want to miss, make sure you get an alert there. It's very simple. But I didn't do that. So it is what it is. But kind of at the moment, this channel, right, even came back, support, nice bounce off of that support. I mean, and you see how fast this was. Well, this is a weekly chart, so this took like what, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. 5 weeks, almost a 25% move in 5 weeks off of channel low. Like, you see how much opportunity there really is. And then same thing here. All right, coming off a range low, I'm not even going to take it from the wick. I mean, you already had an 18% move in basically a week and a half, something like that. It's crazy. So, argument there. I think stocks deserve a bit more respect. I think that they deserve a bit more time in terms of like if that's your thing, right, and you're able to trade them. I think, like, again, it's kind of like giving us more opportunity than I would say crypto is, to be honest. Like, that's just my opinion. But again, 20-year range, and it's phenomenal, right? We literally come back to these lows 20 years later, and they're respected. Don't know what to say about that. That's pretty amazing. So, like, the thing is, right, what are you looking for in a range? Well, the two main levels, obviously you have your volume levels in between, point of control, that type of stuff. For me, 23 and the high. I wouldn't get any crazier than that. Like, if, again, you see how long this takes, though. The last time we were at range high was in 2016. I mean, this takes forever. It takes forever to move a lot of times. So again, this could be like a position that theoretically, like, you know, by the end of, you know, by the time I'm done actually positioning myself in AT&T, I mean, I could be in this position for years. And kind of the nice thing about AT&T, pretty good dividend on it. So you do have that going, you know, you do have that kind of like working out for you over the years that you might end up being in here. The thing is, like, you have to ask yourself too, like, is this part of your, like, does this fit in with like your investment narrative, right? Which I mean, I'm not going to get too much into that, but for myself, it's not a terrible position to be in. I don't mind being in this position, especially if I'm able to position myself near range low. I'm pretty happy with that. You know, as long as it doesn't look like we're just going to dump the bottom out and just go to zero or anything like that, which I don't think is very likely. But I think, you know, again, position yourself here range low. It's not a terrible idea. And, you know, getting paid, you know, quarterly dividends for the next several years. Now, there might be other, I mean, there's certainly going to be other stocks that you could play around with that are very likely going to give you much larger, you know, potential like multiples, but that's up to you to figure out if that fits in with what you got going on or not. So for me, I tend to I go where kind of my gut tells me, and again, like where the technicals tell me. This to me seems pretty decent, and like that's why I have crypto for, like that the exposure and, you know, the insane risk and all that. Like I don't need to position my entire portfolio around just being like as ultra risky as possible, right? Like I believe it or not, I actually do take some relatively safe plays with my equities, you know, with my equities portfolio. But so that's AT&T. Is there any questions about that? Very simple. Does anybody have any questions about that? Like, and I hope that you're seeing kind of why it's makes some sense to be paying attention to what's going on in stocks, because I think that there's actually a lot of opportunity that we're not really getting right now in crypto. I will say that it's a very likely a very short term thing. I don't think that's not gonna I don't think that's gonna happen for very long. But while it does, and if you're trying to get, you know, if you want something with that's moving a little bit more, I think this is actually the place to be. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to go over. Maybe I'll just keep it short. Some other positions that I was trying to do like a very quick run through, see if there's anything that stuck out to me. If there's anything that's like worth going over. I'm probably gonna cut the stream here though. I just wanted to do a little bit of an update. Does anybody have any questions about what I've gone over? So we just had we just had live session 100. Was it like 2 days ago or 2 or 3 days ago? So again, covered a lot more, you know, crypto related stuff there. So probably gonna keep it short for this one. Let me see, where are we at? 31 minutes. That's pretty short for me. But yeah, there's a chance I might actually make this one public. So I want to make it too long. No questions? Okay, well, I'm gonna cut it. I'm probably still gonna go over some we could like look at some other charts and whatnot, but probably cut this particular stream. All right.